Picture this. It's the first of the month. You've got your coffee. You've got your spreadsheet open, or maybe your notebook, or the budgeting app. And you feel generally good about yourself. This month, you think, it's going to be different. This month, I have a plan. And then life happens. The car needs something. Your friend has a birthday. You had a really hard Tuesday, and honestly, takeout was just worth it. And by the 18th, you're staring at your bank account thinking, what happened? I had a budget. I made a whole budget. If that sounds familiar, I want you to know something right now. You didn't fail the budget. That budget just failed you. Welcome to Quiet Minds, Rich Lives, the podcast where we talk about money and mental wellness without the shame spiral. I'm your host, Michael, and today we're going to dig into one of the biggest pain points I hear about, which is budgeting, and why it feels so impossible. Why the advice you've been given probably doesn't work, what to try instead. Stay with me because this episode might actually change the way you think about your money. Let's start off with the word itself, budget. What does that word make you feel? For a lot of people, it's dreadful. Restriction, that sinking feeling of being told you can't have something. Budget, to many of us, is just a fancier word for deprivation. And here's the thing, that feeling isn't irrational. That feeling is a response to how budgeting has historically been taught. Traditional budget advice tends to sound like this. Cut your coffee from $150 to $30 a month. Stop eating out more than twice a week. Cancel the gym membership. Cancel the streaming platforms. Cook every meal from scratch. And sure, if you follow every one of those rules perfectly, you might save some money. But what nobody tells you is that this approach treats normal spending like moral failure. Like every latte is a character flaw. Like wanting to order pizza after a 10-hour workday means you're bad with money. That's not a budgeting problem. That's a shame problem. And shame, as it turns out, is one of the worst possible motivators for long-term financial change. Researchers who study behavioral economics have found that our brains are actually hardwired to prioritize short-term rewards over long-term goals. It's called the present bias. It's not weakness, it's how humans are built. And a budget system that ignores human psychology is going to fail almost every time, no matter how good your intentions are. So before we talk about solutions, let's talk about the myths. I think some of what you believe about budgets might be part of the reason yours keeps falling apart. I want to go through 5 of the most common budget myths I see. And I want to be clear, these are things I believe too for a long time, so there's no judgment here. Myth 1, a budget means tracking every single dollar. When most people hear budget, they picture a giant spreadsheet with 47 categories, such as groceries, dining out, personal care, entertainment, coffee. And I mean specifically coffee separate from the dining out category, gas subscriptions, gifts, so on and so forth. And yes, some budget methods do ask you to track at that level of detail, but here's the truth. That level of detail is generally exhausting, and for most people, it's completely unsustainable. When the process of budgeting requires more mental energy than you have to give, you stop doing it. And when you feel guilty for stopping, and you avoid your finances altogether, that's far worse than never having started. The reality is, you don't need to track every dollar. You need to know where your money is going in broad strokes and make intentional decisions about the categories that actually move the needle for you. Myth 2, if you're going over budget just once, you failed. This one comes from what psychologists call all or nothing thinking. The idea that if the plan isn't being executed perfectly, it's ruined. So you might as well give up entirely. You've probably experienced this one in other areas of your life too. You're eating healthy, but then you go have a slice of cake at a birthday party and you think, well, I already blew it. Might as well have a pizza for dinner. Budgets work the same way. You overspend on groceries by $40 in week 2, and suddenly the whole month feels like a write off. But here's what I want you to sit with. Budget is not a test you pass or fail. It's a system you're constantly adjusting. Going over in the category doesn't erase your progress. It's just data. It tells you something about your real life. Maybe that category was underallocated and that something unexpected came up. That's useful information. That's not a failure. Myth 3, the budget is the same every month. This one and this one right here. This one causes so much unnecessary stress. Real life is not consistent. December is not the same as June. A month where your car breaks down is not the same month as where nothing happens. A week where you're managing anxiety and cooking feels genuinely impossible is not the same as the week when you have energy to meal prep. A rigid budget built around ideal conditions will fail as soon as real conditions show up, and real conditions always show up. A good budget is not static. It's something you revisit, you adjust, you rebuild, and around what's actually happening in your life. Think of it less like a rule and more like a standing check in with yourself. Myth 4: budgeting is about cutting spending. This is maybe the biggest reframe I want you to take away today. Budgeting is not about spending less, budgeting is about spending intentionally. There's a huge difference. Spending less implies sacrifice, spending intentionally implies choice. When your budget actually works, you're not depriving yourself. You're directing your money towards what genuinely matters to you and cutting back on what doesn't. That gym membership that keeps you mentally healthy, that's not a budget casualty, that's a priority. The subscription you forgot you had and haven't used in 4 months, that's a great candidate for trimming. Not because budget demands sacrifice, but because it's not actually adding value to your life. The goal is alignment between your money and your values. It's not about punishment. Myth 5: you need willpower to stick to a budget. I hear this all the time. I just don't have the discipline. I want to push back on that really hard because it's not true. And more importantly, it's not helpful. Willpower is a finite resource. Studies consistently show that the more decisions we make in a day, the worse we get at making them. If your entire financial system relies on you remembering to exercise restraint every single time you open your wallet, it's going to fall apart eventually, especially on high stress days, tired days, and anxious days. The best financial systems are built to reduce the need for willpower. They automate, they simplify, and they work with your natural habits instead of against them. So, before we get into different methods, let me give you the most useful definition of a budget that I know. Budget is a plan for your money that reflects your real life and your actual values. Notice what that definition doesn't include. It doesn't say restrictions. It doesn't say sacrifice. It doesn't say perfection. Budget is just a plan. It's like a recipe. It gives you structure to follow, but you can adjust for what's in your fridge, what you're in the mood for, and how much time you have. Nobody threw out the whole recipe because they didn't have time. There are a few things that a solid budget actually needs to do. First, it needs to give you visibility, a clear picture of what's coming in and what's going out. Second, it needs to have flexibility built in it. And so when that life happens, and it will, you're not starting from zero. And third, it needs to be sustainable, meaning it can't require so much mental energy that you abandon it by week 3. So let's talk about some approaches that actually do those things. I want to walk you through 3 budgeting methods. These aren't the only options, there are dozens. But these are 3 that I found consistently practical for real people with real messy lives. It has helped me and it has helped many of my clients. And importantly, none of them require you to be financial experts or spend hours every week on spreadsheets. Approach number 1 is the 50-30-20 rule. I've mentioned this approach before, and no, I didn't make this up. This was one popularized by Senator Elizabeth Warren in her book, All Your Worth, and has become one of the most widely recommended frameworks in personal finance, and for a good reason. The idea is simple: take your after tax income and divide it into 3 buckets. 50% goes to needs. These are your non negotiables: your rent, your mortgage, utilities, groceries, insurance, transportation to work, minimum debt payments, the things that keep your life running. 30% goes towards wants. This is dining out, entertainment, travel, hobbies, subscriptions, shoppings, things that make life enjoyable but aren't strictly essential. And then 20% goes to savings and debt repayments, such as building your emergency fund, putting money towards retirement, paying down credit cards. Your financial future lives here. The beauty of this system is that it is completely flexible. You're not tracking every single line item, just 3 broad categories. Within those categories, you get to decide what a need versus a want is for you. Like gym membership, if it generally supports your mental health, I'd argue it's a need. The point is, you're making intentional choices. One honest caveat here: if you're in a high cost living area or if your income is lower, 50% for needs might not be realistic. Your rent alone might eat 60 or 70% of your income, and that's okay. The percentages are a guide, not a law. Some people adjust 60-20-20, or they adjust to 70-20-10. What matters is that you're consciously allocating across those three buckets, and that savings and debt repayments aren't getting pushed to zero. Approach number two, pay yourself first. This is also called reverse budgeting. This one is my personal favorite. For people who hate tracking spending but generally want to save more, and the concept is almost beautifully simple. Instead of budgeting what you earn, then seeing what's left over to save, which, let's be honest, is often nothing, you flip the script. On payday, the very first thing that happens is money moves to savings or investments automatically before you spend a single dollar on anything else. You set up an automatic transfer to a separate account, your emergency fund, your retirement contributions, whatever your current priority is. And then you live on what's left, the rest of yours, guilt free. This method essentially removes willpower from the equation entirely. You're not deciding every month whether to save, it just happens. And psychologically, money you never see in your checking account is money you don't miss. The one thing to be careful about here is making sure you know your fixed expenses before setting that transfer amount so you're not accidentally overdrafting. Start conservatively, even 10%, and increase it gradually as you figure out what's sustainable. Approach number three, zero based budgeting. This one's a little bit more involved, but it's incredibly powerful if you're in a season where you need more control, paying down debt aggressively, building an emergency fund from scratch, or just generally wanting to understand where every dollar is going. In zero based budgeting, you start with your total monthly income and you assign every single dollar a job until you reach zero. Not $0 in your account, but $0 assigned. Every dollar has a category, right? Groceries, savings, date night, your emergency fund contribution, debt payment, and so on. The name comes from the idea that income minus every allocation equals zero. Nothing is that's floating around unplanned. It takes more time and attention than other methods, but for people who are serious about their specific financial goals or who feel like money just disappears and they can't figure out where, this level of visibility is generally eye opening. It's the difference between roughly knowing and actually knowing. Apps like You Need a Budget, or known as YNAB, are built specifically around this philosophy and can make it a lot less overwhelming than a blank spreadsheet. So, which one should you choose? The honest answer here is the one you actually use. If you hate tracking every transaction, don't pick zero based budgeting. If your income varies a lot month to month, percentages might work better than fixed amounts. If you just want to make sure you're saving something without thinking about it much, pay yourself first is your friend. Try one for 2 or 3 months. See how it feels. Adjust it. The framework is starting. The framework is a starting point, not a life sentence. I want to pause here and talk about something we don't discuss nearly enough in personal finance. That's the emotional weight of money. Money is not just math. Money is deeply, deeply emotional. People spend out of boredom, out of stress, out of loneliness, out of celebration, out of grief, out of need to feel in control when everything else feels out of control. Traditional budgeting advice treats money as a purely logical system, then is baffled when people don't behave logically. If you struggle with the budget in the past, especially if that struggle coincided with a hard season in your mental health, I want you to hear this clearly. That is not a character flaw. That was your brain doing what brains do under stress, seeking immediate relief, avoiding things that feel difficult, prioritizing now over later. What this means practically is that building a financial system that works for you requires some self knowledge that goes beyond knowing your income. It means asking, when do I tend to overspend? What am I usually feeling in those moments? What does money represent for me? Is it security? Is it freedom? Is it love? Is it status? Those aren't soft questions. They're some of the most important financial questions you can ask. And the more honest you can be with yourself about the emotional side of your spending, the better chance you have of building a system that works with your actual psychology, not against it. If you notice that anxiety, depression, or other mental health factors are significantly affecting your relationship with your money, please know that it's incredibly common and it's worth exploring, whether that's in therapy, in financial coaching, or even just in a journaling about it. We'll have more episodes specifically on the mental health money connection, so stay tuned. Okay, I want to leave you with three very concrete, very doable things you can do this week. No overhaul required. Step one, get visibility before you make a plan. Before you build any budget, you need to understand what's actually happening right now. Going back through the last 30 days of transactions, your bank statements, your card statements, and just look at it. No judgment, just look. Where did your money actually go? Most people, when they do this for the first time, find at least one or two categories that generally surprise them. And step two, pick one method and try it for 30 days. Based on what we talked about today, pick whichever of the three approaches resonate most with you right now. Not the one you think you should do, the one you think you could actually sustain. Give it one full month. You're allowed to have it. You're allowed to decide if it's for you or if it's not for you, but give it a fair shot before you judge it. And then step three, build a buffer. Whatever number you land on, leave some breathing room. If you think you spend about $400 a month on groceries, budget 450. Life isn't perfect. Your budget should be built to survive imperfection. A little buffer isn't cheating. It's realistic planning. I'll leave you with this. A budget is not a test. It's not a moral measuring stick. It's not proof of whether you're a responsible adult or not. Budget is just a tool. Like any tool, it's a job that makes your life easier, not harder. If your current budget is making your life harder, it's not you that needs fixing, it's the budget. You deserve a financial system that works with who you actually are, not the idealized version of yourself who never has had a hard day and cooks every meal from scratch. This person is lovely, but they are not real. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who might need to hear it. Someone who's been in that place of staring at their bank accounts and feeling ashamed. Let's change that conversation. I'm your host, and this is Quiet Minds, Rich Lives. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you next time. Bye.